The Hope Diamond is perhaps the most famous jewel in the world, not only for its breathtaking beauty, but also for the sinister reputation it has carried for centuries. Unlike other gemstones that are admired solely for their brilliance, the Hope Diamond is shrouded in mystery, fear, and tales of misfortune. Its deep blue hue sparkles with an otherworldly glow, but behind that glow lies a story whispered for generations, a curse said to destroy anyone who dares to possess it. Legends claim the diamond was stolen from the eye of a Hindu idol in India, angering the gods and sealing its fate with a supernatural curse. From the moment it entered human hands, disaster seemed to follow. The diamond's journey across continents is filled with stories of betrayal, downfall, financial ruin, insanity, and untimely death. Kings, queens, merchants, and heiresses all coveted the gem, but many of them paid the ultimate price for its possession. The myth of the cursed diamond grew with every tragic twist in its story. People began to believe the jewel was not merely an object of wealth, but a vessel of doom, an eternal reminder that beauty can sometimes hide deadly consequences. Even in the modern era, the diamond's reputation has not faded. It continues to captivate millions of visitors at the Smithsonian Institution, where it rests today, locked behind glass, perhaps safely contained but never stripped of its legend. But the tale of the Hope Diamond is not just a ghost story for thrill seekers. It is also a window into human greed, ambition, and the dangerous allure of wealth. Why did so many risk everything for a stone that seemed cursed? Why did some dismiss the curse as superstition, while others became its tragic proof? And most importantly, could a series of misfortunes be mere coincidence? Or does a Hope Diamond truly carry a dark, otherworldly power? In this journey through history, we will trace the diamond's path from the mines of India to the royal courts of France, through revolutions and thefts into the hands of wealthy dynasties, and finally to its resting place in Washington, D.C. Along the way, we'll meet the people whose lives were forever changed, sometimes ended, by their connection to this cursed stone. The Hope Diamond is not just a jewel. It is a story carved in tragedy, a riddle of fate and misfortune that has haunted generations. And as we begin this exploration, one truth becomes clear. Those who held the diamond sought beauty, wealth, and status, but instead many found madness, ruin, and death. The curse of the Hope Diamond had already begun the moment it was pried from its sacred origins. Now, let us step back in time to its mysterious birth in India, where the legend first took root. Long before it became known as the Hope Diamond, this mysterious jewel was said to have been unearthed from the fabled mines of Golconda in India. The Golconda mines were legendary for producing some of the world's most stunning diamonds, including the Koh-i-Noor. Yet none carried the same aura of mystery as this striking blue gem. With its unusual color and radiant glow, it was unlike anything ever seen, a jewel that seemed touched by divine hands, or perhaps cursed by them. According to one of the most persistent legends, the diamond once rested in the statue of a Hindu goddess, serving as one of her eyes. Its removal, the story goes, was not done in reverence but in theft. A man, sometimes said to be a temple priest, other times a wandering adventurer, plucked it from the sacred idol, defiling a holy image and inviting the wrath of the gods. Whether this tale is historical truth or folklore, it became the seed of the diamond's reputation as an object carrying supernatural consequences. From the moment the diamond entered human possession, strange misfortunes were said to occur. The thief who first stole it, according to legend, met a violent end, tore apart by wild dogs, or executed for his crime. In India, where jewels often carried spiritual significance, such stories were more than cautionary tales. They were warnings about greed and sacrilege. A diamond of such power, once removed from a sacred context, was no longer a blessing but a curse. Eventually, the stone made its way into the hands of merchants who carried it beyond India's borders. Its unique blue color made it irresistibly valuable in Europe, where no one had seen such a gem before. By the mid-17th century, the diamond found its way into the possession of Jean-Baptiste Tavernier, a French gem merchant and adventurer who traveled extensively through Persia and India in search of treasures for European courts. Tavernier is often credited with introducing the diamond to the Western world. But the origins of the Hope Diamond remain cloaked in mystery. Was it truly stolen from a temple idol, or was that story invented later to explain the disasters that befell its owners? Historians debate whether the curse was born in India or whether European storytellers added that detail centuries later to make sense of the tragedies surrounding the stone. Regardless of the truth, the legend became inseparable from the diamond's identity. The jewel, originally much larger than it is today, weighed over 112 carats before it was cut. Its rich violet blue color fascinated gemologists, who would later discover that trace amounts of boron within the diamond's crystal structure caused a rare hue. But in the 17th century, science was not the lens through which people understood the world. To them, a gem of such extraordinary appearance could only be a gift of the divine or a curse from it. From the temples of India to the courts of Europe, the Hope Diamond's journey had only just begun, and with its arrival in France, its curse would soon weave itself into the fabric of royal history. Jean-Baptiste Tavernier was no ordinary merchant. Born in 1605, he was a man of ambition and wanderlust who traveled farther than most Europeans of his age. His journeys took him deep into Persia, India, and the East, where he bartered with kings and courtiers for jewels that dazzled imagination. Among the treasures he acquired on his travels, none would prove more infamous than the large blue diamond he brought back from India, what would one day become the Hope Diamond. When Tavernier first laid eyes on the diamond, it was not yet cut into the shape we know today. It was a massive, irregular stone of more than 112 carats, shimmering with a color so rare it seemed otherworldly. Tavernier was captivated. In Europe, where most diamonds sparkle white, a blue gem of this size would be priceless. His instincts told him that French royalty, already obsessed with jewels, would pay handsomely for it. And he was right. Upon returning to France, Tavernier presented his collection of gems to King Louis XIV. The Sun King, who built Versailles into a monument of wealth and splendor, immediately desired the blue diamond. Tavernier sold it, along with other treasures, in a transaction that secured his fortune and reputation. The diamond would become known as the French blue, a jewel fit for a king. But Tavernier's story did not end with success. For all the wealth the diamond brought him, his later years were marred by hardship. One version of his fate claims he was torn apart by wild dogs during a journey through Russia, a grim and violent death often linked to the diamond's curse. Another account suggests he died peacefully in Moscow at the age of 84, his fortune diminished but his legacy secure. The truth of his death is debated, but the legend clings stubbornly to a more gruesome ending. Those who believe in the curse saw it as the first clear example of the diamond's wrath, that even a man who carried it from its birthplace could not escape its vengeance. Tavernier, they said, was punished for taking a sacred gem from India and delivering it into foreign hands. Yet Tavernier's role in history is undeniable. Without him, the diamond might never have left India, never entered the glittering courts of Europe, and never gained his reputation as an instrument of doom. He was the bridge between two worlds, the sacred origins of the gem and the royal stage where its curse would unfold. For Tavernier, the diamond was a triumph, a jewel that elevated his standing among Europe's elite. But as history would show, triumph and tragedy often walked hand in hand where the Hope Diamond was concerned. With the stone now in possession of the French monarchy, the stage was set for its legend to intertwine with the fate of kings. When Jean-Baptiste Tavernier sold the massive blue diamond to King Louis XIV of France, he could not have known that he was handing over more than a rare treasure. He was introducing a curse into the very heart of one of Europe's most powerful monarchies. Louis XIV, the Sun King, adored displays of wealth and magnificence. His palace at Versailles was a stage for grandeur, and jewels played a starring role. The blue diamond, with its hypnotic glow, was exactly the sort of prize that fit his vision of royal splendor. The diamond was recut under the king's orders to enhance its brilliance. From its original 112 carats, it was reshaped into a 67-carat stone of striking violet blue, known as the French blue. Mounted on a gold cravat pin and surrounded by glittering diamonds, it became one of Louis XIV's most prized possessions. When he wore it, courtiers marveled at its strange, deep color, unlike any jewel they had ever seen. It symbolized not only wealth but also divine right, as if the stone itself radiated royal power. Yet beneath the glitter of Versailles, the shadow of the curse began to spread. Louis XIV himself lived a long life, dying at the age of 76. Some might argue that he escaped the diamond's wrath, But others note that the king suffered immense personal losses during his reign. Nearly all of his legitimate children died before him, leaving his line vulnerable. He endured wars, famine, and financial strain that burdened France long after his death. To believers in the curse, these tragedies were not mere misfortunes, but the work of the diamond. The diamond's ill fortune became clearer in the reigns that followed. Louis XV, who inherited the crown, displayed the gem less frequently. Its beauty was undeniable, but whispers of misfortune clung to it. By the time Louis XVI ascended the throne, the French monarchy was crumbling under the weight of debt, unrest, and revolution. Both Louis XVI and his queen, Marie Antoinette, were said to have worn the diamond on rare occasions. Whether coincidence or curse, their fates were sealed in the guillotine's blade during the French Revolution. The French blue became inextricably linked to the downfall of the Bourbon dynasty. What was once a symbol of opulence now seemed an omen of disaster. As Paris erupted in revolution, the royal jewels, including the French blue, became targets for looters and thieves. The curse had already devoured kings and queens, and soon it would push the diamond into an era of chaos and disappearance. Louis XIV's desire for splendor had brought the diamond into Europe's spotlight, but his descendants bore the price. The jewel that once adorned the crown of France became a silent witness to the fall of monarchy itself. And as the revolution swept through Paris, the diamond story took its darkest turn yet. By the late 18th century, the French monarchy was crumbling. Years of extravagance, financial mismanagement, and growing resentment among the people had brought the nation to the brink of revolution. Against this backdrop of turmoil, the French blue, once a symbol of royal glory, became entangled in one of the most violent upheavals in European history. Louis XVI and his queen, Marie Antoinette, inherited the gem as part of the French crown jewels. Though rarely worn, the diamond was closely associated with their doomed reign. To later storytellers, it seemed almost poetic that a jewel so beautiful and so feared should glitter in the final days of monarchy on the verge of collapse. In 1789, the revolution erupted. The royal family was stripped of its power, and in 1792, the crown jewels were transferred to the Garde-Meuble, France's royal treasury, for safekeeping. But safety was a fleeting illusion. That September, revolutionary mobs stormed the treasury and looted its contents. Among the treasure stolen was the French blue. The jewel that had once adorned kings and dazzled courtiers vanished into the chaos of revolution, seemingly swallowed by the very curse it was said to carry. The fate of Louis XVI and Marie Antoinette only deepened the diamond's dark legend. In January 1793, Louis was executed by guillotine. In October the same year, Marie Antoinette followed him to the scaffold. To those who believe in the curse, it was no coincidence that the royal couple who had possessed the French blue met such brutal ends. The stone had claimed yet more victims, and this time it had toppled a dynasty. What became of the diamond after the theft is a matter of speculation and intrigue. Some claimed it was smuggled to London, hidden away by a thief who knew its value. Others suggested it was cut into smaller stones to disguise its identity and sold on the black market. For decades, the diamond's trail went cold. It was as though the curse had hidden it away, waiting for the right moment to resurface. The disappearance of the French blue during the Revolution added another layer of mystique to its story. It was no longer just a royal jewel. It was a relic of fallen monarchy, a treasure that carried the blood of kings and queens in its history. Its vanishing only fueled rumors of its supernatural power. Was the diamond cursed, or had human greed and ambition simply woven tragedy into its path? For nearly 40 years, the French blue remained lost to history, but curses, like legends, are rarely silenced for long. In the early 19th century, the diamond reappeared, smaller, altered, and renamed. Now known as the Hope Diamond, it would begin the next chapter of its journey, one that would drag yet more families into ruin and despair. When the French blue vanished during the chaos of the Revolution, it seemed as though the diamond had slipped into the shadows forever. For decades, its whereabouts were unknown. To some, it was lost treasure, spirited away and hidden by the clever hands of thieves. To others, it was an object too cursed to be kept in the open, its owners doomed to conceal it until fate demanded otherwise. Whatever the truth, the diamond's disappearance only enhanced its reputation as a jewel of mystery and menace. The first hints of its reappearance came years later, in the early 19th century. By this time, the French monarchy had been overthrown, Napoleon had risen, fallen, and Europe was reshaped by war. In this turbulent world, a large blue diamond appeared in London. It was not identical to the French blue. This stone was smaller, cut differently, and weighed just over 45 carats. But its unusual deep blue color made it unmistakable to those who knew its history. Many historians now believe the French blue was recut during its years in hiding, perhaps to disguise its identity and allow it to be sold without drawing suspicion. The diamond eventually came into possession of a London banker named Thomas Hope, a man of considerable wealth and social standing. Around 1839, it was cataloged in the Hope family's collection of gems, and from then on it carried their name, the Hope Diamond. But while the jewel was admired as the centerpiece of the Hope family's treasures, its curse did not rest. Stories began to circulate of financial misfortunes and tragedies surrounding the Hope family. Though wealthy, they suffered from declining fortunes, disputes, and scandals that seemed to chip away at their legacy. Some suggested the diamond was to blame, that the Hope family, by possessing the jewel, had inherited the same ill luck that had destroyed kings and queens. What made the curse so powerful was not just the actual tragedies, but the stories told about them. Writers in the 19th century eagerly embellished the diamond's history, spinning tales of taverniers' violent death, the guillotines of Louis and Marie Antoinette, and the mysterious disappearance of the French blue. The Hope diamond became more than a gemstone. It was a storybook of doom, each new owner writing another chapter in its legend. For the Hope family, the diamond was both a symbol of prestige and a shadow over their name. Their association with it would ensure they lived in the pages of history, but it also tied them to a curse that whispered of ruin. The years in hiding had not diminished the stone's power. It had only deepened the mystery. Now, with its reemergence in England, the Hope diamond was ready to continue its dark journey. And in the decade that followed, it would claim new victims across continents, leaving a trail of despair in its glittering wake. The Hope family's connection to the diamond began in the early 19th century, when the mysterious blue gem appeared in London and was acquired by Henry Philip Hope, a wealthy banker and member of a prominent merchant dynasty. In his possession, the jewel was admired not only for its rarity, but also for its association with intrigue. By the time it entered the Hope collection, the diamond already carried whispers of its cursed past, linking it to fallen monarchs and tragic deaths. To own it was both a privilege and, perhaps, a dangerous gamble. Henry Philip Hope showcased the diamond as part of his extensive gem collection, and when he died in 1839, the stone passed into the Hope family's legacy. It was at this point that the diamond gained its enduring name, the Hope Diamond. But as history would soon show, its new family of owners was not immune to the curse. The Hope family, despite their wealth, soon found themselves entangled in a series of misfortunes. Henry's heirs fought bitterly over his estate, with lawsuits and disputes draining both finances and goodwill. The once prosperous family fortune dwindled through extravagance, poor management, and relentless legal battles. Though not every calamity could be directly traced to the diamond, the pattern of decline seemed to fit neatly into the jewel's growing legend of ruin. One of the most notable heirs, Lord Francis Hope, inherited the diamond in the late 19th century. Unlike his cautious predecessors, Francis was a man of indulgence. He lived lavishly, spending beyond his means, and married the American actress Mae Yohe. Their marriage was turbulent, filled with scandal and financial strain. In time, Francis's reckless spending led to bankruptcy. The jewel, once a symbol of wealth and status, became a burden he could no longer afford to keep. Eventually, it was sold to cover debts, and the Hope family's connection to the diamond came to an ignoble end. For believers in the curse, the Hope story was simply the latest chapter in the jewel's deadly saga. Here was a family of immense fortune, reduced to ruin within a few generations of possessing the diamond. The jewel had brought them fame, yes, but also bankruptcy, disgrace, and the collapse of their great legacy. What's striking is how the curse seemed to weave together both reality and perception. The Hope family's decline may have been due to their own extravagance and mismanagement, but the diamond's presence in their lives gave tragedy a supernatural edge. To the world, the Hope diamond was not simply a stone. It was an omen, a harbinger of destruction for all who dare to keep it. By the time the Hopes parted with the diamond, the legend was firmly entrenched. The curse had claimed another family, dragging them from wealth to despair. Yet the diamond's journey was far from over. Across the Atlantic, a new chapter awaited. One that would entwine the jewel with an American heiress whose fate would make the curse more infamous than ever before. By the early 20th century, the Hope diamond had crossed the Atlantic, finding a new home in the United States. Its most famous and perhaps most tragic owner would be Evelyn Walsh McLean, the flamboyant American socialite and heiress to a vast mining fortune. Born into wealth and privilege, Evelyn was accustomed to luxury. Yet, when the Hope diamond entered her life, it brought not joy but a series of personal tragedies that cemented the jewel's reputation as cursed. In 1911, famed jeweler Pierre Cartier introduced the diamond to Evelyn. At first, she was skeptical. The stories of misfortune surrounding the gem were already well known, and even Evelyn hesitated at the thought of bringing such a notorious object into her home. But Cartier, ever the skilled salesman, played on her fascination. He presented the stone in a novel setting, framed with smaller diamonds, and assured her that she could break the curse by owning it. Whether she believed him or simply gave in to its allure, Evelyn purchased a Hope diamond for a staggering $180,000. A fortune in that era. At first, Evelyn wore the diamond with pride. It became her signature jewel, a dazzling centerpiece at parties and galas. She flaunted it, claiming she enjoyed the thrill of owning something so infamous. Yet even as she joked about the curse, misfortune began to seep into her life. Her first great tragedy came when her young son, Vincent, was struck by a car and killed at the age of 9. Evelyn was devastated, and whispers grew louder that the diamond's curse had claimed another victim. Years later, her daughter Evelyn would die of a drug overdose, adding to Evelyn's heartbreak. Her husband, Edward Ned McLean, descended into scandal and madness. His reckless business ventures failed, his reputation collapsed, and he was eventually declared insane, confined in an asylum until his death. Despite these horrors, Evelyn clung to the Hope diamond. She insisted it brought her comfort, even as it seemed to strip away everything she loved. Perhaps it was denial, perhaps stubbornness, or perhaps the curse had ensnared her so deeply that she could not part with it. When she died in 1947, the jewel was finally sold to settle her debts, its tragic chapter in the McLean family complete. Evelyn Walsh McLean's story became the centerpiece of the Hope diamond's legend. Unlike the distant tales of kings and revolution, her misfortunes played out in the glaring spotlight of American high society, where newspapers eagerly chronicled every scandal and heartbreak. To the public, there was no doubt. The curse of the Hope diamond had crossed the ocean, and its power was alive and well. From the palaces of Versailles to the mansions of Washington, the diamond had shown no mercy. And yet, its journey was not finished. After Evelyn's death, it passed into the hands of another man, one who would forever change its destiny. After Evelyn Walsh McLean's death in 1947, her estate was burdened with debts, and her vast collection of jewels, including the infamous Hope diamond, was put up for sale. The buyer who stepped forward was Harry Winston, one of the most prominent jewelers in the world. Known as a king of diamonds, Winston acquired the Hope diamond in 1949, along with several other pieces from McLean's estate. Unlike its previous owners, however, Winston approached the jewel with a sense of strategy rather than personal desire. Winston did not wear the diamond or keep it locked away as a private possession. Instead, he placed it on display, allowing the public to marvel at its brilliance. For nearly a decade, the Hope diamond toured the world as part of Winston's Court of Jewels exhibition. Audiences from New York to London flocked to see it, and the gem's legend of misfortune traveled with it. Whisper among spectators who stared at its deep, mesmerizing blue. Winston himself seemed unaffected by the supposed curse. Perhaps, unlike others before him, he had not tried to claim it as his own, but treated it as a jewel to be shared with the world. In 1958, Winston made a surprising decision. Believing that the Hope diamond should belong not to a private individual but to the public, he donated it to the Smithsonian Institution in Washington, D.C. His gift was intended to help establish the Smithsonian's National Gem Collection, elevating the museum's status as a world center for natural history. The act was unprecedented. A jewel of such value and notoriety freely given for education and preservation. The transfer itself became part of the diamond's legend. Winston mailed the priceless gem through the ordinary U.S. Postal Service, wrapped in brown paper and insured for $145. The package arrived safely at the Smithsonian, but not without adding another twist to the diamond's tale. The mailman who delivered the package, James Todd, later suffered a series of accidents, including a crushed leg and the loss of his wife. To those who believed in the curse, even touching the diamond's journey could bring misfortune. Once at the Smithsonian, the Hope Diamond was placed on public display, where it remains today. Encased in bulletproof glass, illuminated under soft lights, it draws millions of visitors each year. For the first time in centuries, the diamond was no longer hidden in royal treasuries, stolen in revolutions, or locked in private vaults. Instead, it became a piece of history available to all, a relic that carried both beauty and dread. By entrusting the diamond to the Smithsonian, Harry Winston may have broken the cycle of personal ruin. No longer belonging to one individual, the jewel was placed in the collective care of humanity. Yet even in its new home, the legend persisted. People still whisper the curse as they gaze upon it, wondering how such a beautiful object could carry such darkness. The Hope Diamond had finally found a resting place, but its story and its mystery was far from over. The Hope Diamond today rests quietly in the Smithsonian Institution's National Museum of Natural History in Washington, D.C., surrounded not by royal courts, desperate heiresses, or cunning thieves, but by curious tourists gazing at its brilliance through a glass case. Each year, millions of visitors walk past the gem, marveling not just at its beauty, but the aura of dread and fascination that has followed it through history. Yet, the question still lingers. Is the diamond truly cursed, or are its tragedies the inevitable misfortunes of those who happen to own it? For skeptics, the curse is nothing more than a story carefully crafted by jewelers and journalists to drum up publicity. After all, jewels, like all possessions, often change hands through inheritance or sale. Families rise and fall due to wars, revolutions, financial mismanagement, or personal misfortune. Why should this diamond be singled out as the cause? Some historians argue that tales of curses were deliberately woven into the Hope Diamond's history in the 19th and 20th centuries, designed to increase its mystery and, by extension, its market value. In a world where reputation often determined a jewel's price, a diamond with a dangerous backstory could be even more tantalizing to collectors. But for others, the list of tragedies is simply too long to dismiss. Jean-Baptiste Tavernier, Louis XVI and Marie Antoinette, the Hope family, Evelyn Walsh McLean. So many who came into contact with the gem met grim ends. Coincidence, perhaps. But the human mind is quick to seek patterns, and when death, ruin, and despair fall in the shadow of a single diamond, it is easy to believe in something darker. The idea of a curse satisfies our need to explain the unexplainable, to find order in chaos, and transform cruel misfortune into a narrative with supernatural weight. The Smithsonian, of course, presents the diamond as a natural wonder rather than a cursed relic. Since its arrival, no disasters have been directly linked to the institution or its staff. In fact, the diamond's presence has arguably been beneficial, drawing immense crowds, generating revenue, and establishing the museum as a world leader in gem collections. Some say the curse was finally broken when Harry Winston donated it, removing personal ownership and placing the gem in public trust. Others, however, warn that curses are not bound by logic, and that perhaps the diamond simply bides its time, waiting for a new victim when circumstances change. Ultimately, the Hope Diamond represents more than a glittering jewel. It embodies humanity's uneasy relationship with wealth, beauty, and power. The stone is a reminder how desire can consume, how fortunes can turn to ash, and how even the most dazzling treasures carry shadows. Whether cursed or not, the legend has outlasted kings, queens, and dynasties, making the Hope Diamond as much a tale of human folly as is a marvel of nature. Today, as it glimmers under bright museum lights, its true nature remains an open question. Is it merely a gemstone, indifferent to human suffering, or a silent predator, weaving misfortune into the lives of all who dare to possess it? One thing is certain. The story of the Hope Diamond will continue to haunt, fascinate, and terrify for generations to come. Legends never die, and the Hope Diamond's curse continues to haunt history. Do you believe this jewel is truly cursed, or just a victim of coincidence? Share your thoughts below, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and join us for more untold mysteries on the Crit Stories.